Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy, principles, applications, technology. This video is about magnetic energy and pyramids. So, when the great magnetic energy pumpkin rises out of the pumpkin patch, we will definitely be revisiting, as a human race, we will be revisiting building pyramids and refurbishing the current ones around the planet, repairing them, etc. So look forward to that. That could be pretty cool. But let's backtrack and do a quick review before I get more into this. So we've got etheric energy, okay? That is relatively neutral in nature. But at the same time, we've got all of the elements and the base elements and the base molecules and the molecular structures and their subatomic components all have unique pulse rates, resonant frequencies, magnetic signatures. So I want to talk just a little bit about that. And as a quick reminder, as you move up into higher dimensions, you are able to work more directly with etheric energy as far as being able to manipulate it or see it, feel it, touch it. It becomes more palpable as you get into higher dimensions. And a couple things about the etheric energy. Of course, we've talked about this, but it's always in motion. It is at a very, very fast, a nearly infinite velocity in its exchange rate, in the sense that the energy moves in and out of all systems at all times, including molecular structures at all times, sustaining those structures, keeping those structures going. So this energy is always moving, always flowing, and changing essentially its properties as it enters various systems, such as our solar system and then our planets, the individual planets, and then down to the molecular structures. So let's just talk for a second about these molecules and their subatomic components. So everything is based around vortices of energy, inflowing vortices, outflowing vortices of etheric energy. Some of those vortices may have stronger or weaker components of inflowing and outflowing, and their direction may be different. The speed of those vortices may be different. The strength of those vortices may be different. And there may also be characteristics of those vortices that is different depending on the part of the molecular structure it is, or the part of the subatomic component that it is. Now, of course, I'm coming from a magnetic energy model, so please do not confuse this with a conventional model. Because we're not going to talk about anything that has to do with any sort of solid structure. There's nothing solid in anything. But as we detect positive and negative charges, and as we detect neutral charges in atomic structures or in molecular structures, from a magnetic energy point of view, what we're detecting is either the direction of their vortices or the combination of vortices. So imagine just for a moment that you have just trillions and trillions of vortices that are bringing in etheric energy. A vortice creates the space where etheric energy will be attracted because there's a neutral component to every vortice in the center of that. So etheric energy is automatically attracted into that vortice. But as soon as it gets in that space, it is becoming different. It is taking on more of a polarization, as we would call it, more characteristics that are related to the particular vortice that is attracting that energy. Now, so the incoming vortice is already changing the etheric energy. Now, as those incoming vortices are connected to the outgoing vortices, we have more changes in etheric energy. This is all done through the power of attract. This is all an attract principle. It's an attract principle. So even when it's being attracted back into the ether, it's still through an attract process. So imagine incoming vortices and then an outgoing vortice, typically with the opposite spin, And the dynamics are different between those two vortices, those sets of vortices. So they will typically be in some sort of harmonic of each other. Now that's really important. We'll come back to that in a minute on how critical sound plays, the critical role that sound plays in magnetic energy and how the universe functions. So imagine energy coming in those vortices and then leaving in slightly different vortices that are harmonics of that, and they have different characteristics. Their speed rate may be different, the strength of them may be different. So as the etheric energy flows through the incoming and goes to the outcoming to the outgoing, it is not a perfect flow. If it were, it would remain completely neutral, and that almost never happens. There very rarely is a 100% neutral flow through vortices. But, so there's a difference. There's a difference between this vortice or these vortices and these vortices. In that difference, that creates a new dynamic that causes that energy to essentially toroidal bubble out and pulse. It'll have a specific pulse rate. It'll have a specific characteristics in that pulse rate depending on the difference in those vortices. So that phenomenon of the difference between the incoming and the outgoing is what creates the pulse bubble. That's what creates the pulse rates. That difference then creates a field, a pulsing field, that then redistributes that energy with lots of energy signatures in it. We've got molecular structure and subatomic component signatures in that pulsing bubble that are identifiable. Those are identifiable signatures that we can then change or manipulate with technology and through a lot of means. And we'll get right back to that. So your pulse rate is established by the difference in those vortices, okay? Because that energy can't simply flow through. So what it does is it expands out and it starts redistributing as a pulsing field back into the etheric energy. And that's why we say whenever you have a field of any kind, like a magnetic field or an electromagnetic field, any kind of field around a human body or anything, that field is a point of exchange, is a point of transition. It is a point where energy is feeding back into an etheric flow of energy based on an attract principle. So how can we change that? Well, one way we change that is with something like neutral flowing magnetic current. So when you have a conductor that is typically going to be like a steel wire or something that will conduct a magnetic current, the conductor plays a vital role because what it does is it starts giving elemental vibratory magnetic resonance signatures to that neutral flowing magnetic current. Now, if you were to take, for example, any type of element or a large block of an element such as limestone or granite, does that sound familiar with the pyramids and with like Coral Castle in Florida? When you take those type of elements that have they have signatory similarities to the conductor of your neutral flowing magnetic current, all you need to do is have a wire that wraps around that large block, and when that magnetic current hits a certain pulse rate, everything in that particular block, no matter how many tons it is, will start absorbing and responding to that energy at a certain pulse rate frequency, if you want to call it. You can call it just like Tesla would call it a pulse rate, and we agree with that because that accurately describes what's happening energetically in the phenomena. But we can call it a frequency, we can call it a resonance, whatever you want. That entire block of granite or limestone will begin to resonate at that same current that's coming through that magnetic wire. And when you look at Lead Scolin's different plans for what he had with those magnets and the way they were configured in the rotors, it's very, very similar to the devices we have. And so from a magnetic energy point of view, I know this is controversial, but from a magnetic energy point of view, what he was doing was he was flowing relatively neutral magnetic current through a wire, putting it around a very large block of whatever shape he wants, and I'll get right back to that. and vibrating that at a certain frequency. And what that will do is when you hit a certain magnetic resonance, you will alleviate gravity for that entire brick, that entire block. So you essentially can move very large objects with no effort whatsoever. Now, as you increase the vibratory rate of that magnetic current, you can do other things like begin anything that's touching that wire will begin to separate its molecular structures, and we're changing the inflow and the outflow relationship in those subatomic components, and that allows us to cut right through, for example, granite or limestone like butter. So you can have extremely precise cuts simply with a wire based on the energy that's flowing through that wire. So if you start to imagine the possibilities that you have with that, not to mention now when you have magnetic current or neutral magnetic current and pulsing magnetic fields, and you start to combine that with sound waves, it absolutely energizes those sound waves and magnifies the power that they have. So even certain tools that would vibrate in sound, or it could be a staff, it could be any type of tool that emits some sort of sound frequency combined with that magnetic power, that magnetic pulsing energy, and now you have the ability to offer a specific pulse rate or a signature or energize that and basically offer that neutral flowing pulse a new vibratory rate that allows you to then either move or cut or design or however you want it, bricks that are super large. As long as they're in the right material, that material automatically attracts that neutral magnetic current and allows you to change it and manipulate it. So when you think about how the pyramids were constructed or the technology, a pyramid in and of itself is an amazing device to focus energy. And when you're talking about the materials involved, such as granite or limestone, and their ability to concentrate etheric energy, those are power generators. And they may typically be placed around areas of the globe that have accentuated or heightened areas of magnetic vortices, or the idea that we're capitalizing and we're strengthening a magnetic grid around the planet with those pyramids. And in the future, as magnetic energy comes online, we will absolutely get back to that as a human race, because when those pyramids are complete and they are interconnected with each other, that strengthens the magnetic grid and allows the human race to use that energy for a whole host of things. That could be travel, communication. It could be just raising the vibration of the planet. It could the list goes on, because it gives you the ability to harness that energy and to harness etheric energy at a very high vibratory rate. And that essentially becomes like a magnetic energy that is usable. So those power generators, pyramids are like magnetic energy power generators. And their interconnectivity makes them even more powerful. So that's something that we want to absolutely get back into as a human race. And of course, I like to kind of bring this back to a meditative practice of some sort. So for now, people can begin to embrace the changes that are coming, the magnetic rates that are changing, and embrace their vibratory, higher vibration. So imagine, if you will, a white light crystalline pyramid that surrounds you at an etheric level or at a higher dimensional level, and that surrounds you at all times, and that concentrates high vibratory energy around you and throughout your body. So imagine that crystalline white light pyramid, super high vibration pyramid around you at all times in meditation. And the nice thing about this is you can imagine that around everyone on the planet as you feel compelled to do so, assuming, and make that part of your assumption, this is for the people that wish to have that energy around them at a higher level, at a much higher level. Not necessarily at an ego level, because a lot of people may say, well, no, I want to People like that low vibration energy, but at a higher level, they may be saying, absolutely, I need that kind of energy around me. I want a white light pyramid around my energetic body or my astral body, however you want to say that. And that's an incredible gift to give the human race. So envision that, imagine that for the people that are willing to accept that at a higher level, at their higher conscious level, at their soul level, in their heart energy center. So imagine that white light pyramid around every person on the planet that is okay with that and accepts that, and increase that vibratory rate around everyone on the planet, which then in turn will help the whole planet as well. And with that said, I will see you next time.